Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, grab your popcorn and settle in because today we're talking about one of the most self-sabotaging, self-destructive actions in modern politics.
This is why MAGA is so much stronger than whatever we have on the left, is because, or Republicans in general, is because they'll push for what they want, but when they don't get what they want, they still vote for the candidate. They'll still support the party. The problem with leftists and why people like this need to be ejected from all of our conversations about left-leaning media is because they want radical candidates that probably aren't electorally viable. But not only that, if they don't get those candidates, then they won't vote. Then they won't support whoever actually wins the nomination. That's your huge issue. People on the right just don't do that. If they don't get the candidate they want, maybe sometimes like, maybe they get demotivated from voting or they don't vote as much, but they would never tell people like, oh, we're going to vote for or support the Democrat instead, or we don't even support the current Republican candidate. They'll still show up and vote.
I hope.
Like Republicans, like you'll get like evangelicals voting for a guy who's way through women or whatever the false, and they're like, well, at least he supports us on, abortion. Meanwhile, leftists are like, he doesn't want to convert the United States into a totalitarian socialist society where we're re-educating every single capitalist immediately. Like these guys are turning their backs on like AOC and Bernie Sanders. It's like, bro, it's not good enough. Like you're not worth. You're destructive, and you don't. And the problem again too is that these guys just don't care about political power. They exist in a realm solely for political entertainment, whereas all of the Republican political entertainment is also oriented towards political power, which is why you see especially so much crossover between these guys going on podcasts and then showing up in Trump administrations. You've got Fox News guys like Hegseth. You've got who are now. Like Trump cabinet members. You've got people like Gorka who've gone back to the Trump admin after doing podcasts and arguing with people and everything else. Like this, they're super plugged into voting for and gaining political power. And people on the left don't want political power. They just want to critique political power.
I'm not immediately going to say we need a new party. I don't know if that's the meta here, but ultimately my goal is to help people, no matter what their political orientation might be.
I think we can make the left more like the right in the sense that we are holding together and supporting each other. I don't even know, dude. I don't know what to do about stuff like this because they have such a stranglehold on, and also because young people are so mindfucked politically as well, which is, I mean, like young people should be. I say that a lot. Like I understand why young people are. It's you're young, you believe crazy, but it's such an annoying barrier, an obstacle to deal with.
But ultimately, my goal is to help people, no matter what their political orientation might be at their starting point, to recognize the real vectors of harm,
which is all class-based.
I just wanted to start off with that. Okay. Republicans think it's undocumented migrants and trans people, and liberals think it's leftists and also Republicans. When in fact, this goes above.
It's just class.
Individual politics or whatever the political machine is spitting out on a daily basis. I believe that it's the wealthy and corporations that have designed society in this way. And all of the other divisions are unnecessary.
Like, it's so reductionist. Like, oh, yes, it really is just all class-based. That's it. Like, with that attitude, why did we need civil rights? Shouldn't business owners have just decided to sell money? Shouldn't they decided to make more money by selling products to black people, right? Like, shouldn't that have been a really easy thing to do at the end of the day? Like, why be it's not profitable? There's a good element of truth to that, right? Because there's stuff that drives people more than just class and money. Ideology is a heavy driver as well.
It's capitalism.
Vaj has started sucking off to Hasan hard lately. He used to be critical. Now you can't even be critical of Hasan. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't watch any Vaj's stuff, so.
A decent starting point for people, I think.
The American online left. Or more specifically, why leftists like Hasan Piker, the golden boy of Twitch politics, are single-handedly ensuring that the Democratic Party remains weaker than a wet paper bag in a hurricane. Because let's be real, Republicans, they play to win, they show up, they vote, they rally. They push their agenda with the unified strength of an army marching in lockstep, all while leftists are still in their Discord servers debating whether voting for Joe Biden makes them morally equivalent to war criminals. This is why MAGA is a political juggernaut, while the left can barely hold a coalition together without imploding into a civil war over whether incrementalism is a betrayal to the proletariat. Say what you will about Republicans, but if there's one thing they understand, it's power. These people will vote for a guy accused of everything short of puppy kicking if it means getting one more Supreme Court seat, another conservative judge, or the overturning of Roe v. Wade. They'll complain, they'll grumble, but at the end of the day, they're at the polls, voting in a guy who spent half his campaign speaking an incomprehensible word salad, because at least he'll sign the bills they want. They get it. They understand that politics is about taking power and using it to shape the country and their image. This is why you see figures like Steve Bannon and Sebastian Gorka seamlessly transitioning from Fox News talking heads to actual White House staffers. It's why Trump's orbit is filled with people who spent years in the conservative media machine before making the jump to real political influence. These people don't just talk about politics for clout. They use politics to get things done. Now, compare that to the left. Good God, where do we even start? Leftists operate less like a political movement and more like a purity cult, ready to cancel, disavow, and excommunicate anyone who isn't 100% aligned with their ideological checklist. Not only do they demand that their preferred candidates be radical revolutionaries who advocate for complete systemic upheaval overnight, but if, God forbid, one of their chosen ones loses, they take their ball and go home. Hasan Piker and his ilk exemplify this problem perfectly. They exist not to win elections, not to build a coalition, but to critique and complain from the sidelines. They're like that guy in your group project who refuses to contribute because he doesn't like the direction things are going, but then complains when the final presentation sucks. Instead of rallying behind a viable candidate, they waste their time screaming on Twitch about how both parties are equally bad while Republicans quietly consolidate more power. This is why the Democratic Party is weak. Because while Republicans are out there treating politics like a war, the left is busy debating whether AOC is a sellout for wearing a dress to the Met Gala. Meanwhile, right-wing evangelicals are out there voting for a guy who brags about assault because at least he'll give them their abortion ban. The worst part, it's not even just about who leftists want to win, it's what they do when their chosen candidate loses. If the Democratic primary doesn't go their way, they don't just hold their nose and vote for the winner. No, that would be too pragmatic. Instead, they go full doomer mode, ranting about how the system is rigged, how Biden is just Republican-light, how voting is useless, and how both sides are the same. Newsflash, they're not the same. One side actively supports fascism while the other just kind of sucks at governing. There is a difference. If MAGA voters don't get their dream candidate, they still vote Republican. If leftists don't get theirs, they either sit out the election or start posting memes about how we need a third party, as if that's ever worked in American history. And they do it every single election cycle. There's also the fundamental difference in how conservative and leftist media operate. Right-wing media is an extension of the Republican political machine. Fox News, the Daily Wire, and even the most unhinged QAnon-adjacent influencers all function to support the party, not just critique it. Their goal is power. They shape narratives, they mobilize voters, and they integrate their media stars into actual governance. Meanwhile, leftist media, it exists almost entirely for entertainment. Hasan Piker is not trying to build a coalition. He's not trying to push candidates who can actually win. He's a content creator first, a political activist second, if even that. His audience isn't being primed to vote, organize, or push for real change. They're there to laugh at how dumb conservatives are and feel morally superior. That's it. This is why you don't see leftist media figures transitioning into actual politics the way conservatives do. Ben Shapiro's audience is being prepped to support right-wing candidates. Hasan's audience is being prepped to drop a baste in the chat when he roasts a liberal. That's the difference. So what's the solution? Well, for starters, the left needs to stop treating political participation like a moral purity test and start treating it like a battle. You don't win a war by refusing to fight unless your general is perfect. You go with the best option you have and push forward. That means voting for the Democratic candidate even if they're not a socialist messiah. It means recognizing that incremental progress is better than regressive backsliding. It means playing the game to win, not just to complain. And it means ejecting people like Hasan Piker from serious political conversations. Because at the end of the day, he and other leftist entertainers aren't here to help the movement. They're here to farm outrage, collect Twitch subs, and keep their audiences perpetually cynical and disengaged. The right is out there playing for power. The left is just playing for clout. Until that changes, expect more of the same. Republicans winning elections, Democrats struggling to get anything done, and leftists crying about how the system is rigged instead of actually fighting to change it. Because in the end, politics isn't about being the most ideologically pure. It's about winning. And right now, the left is losing badly.